Microphones, folks, and silence your cell phones, please. Welcome to the November 15th, 2016 regular meeting of the Marquette Township Board. If you would join us in the pledge, we'd appreciate it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks. Randy, roll call, please.
Treasurer Johnson is excused and absent this evening. Trustee Pompo,
Here.
Trustee Marks,
Present.
Trustee LaRue,
Here.
Trustee Truscott,
Here.
Clerk Retired is here, and Supervisor Durant.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Gerard, Attorney Roger Zappa, Kirk Page, Superintendent of Public Works is here. Committee members present are Mike Springer from Recreation and Roads, Trustee-elect Dave Wiegand, and Trustee-elect Dan Everson is in the crowd tonight, kind of like President-elect, Trustee-elect. And that's it for committee members and various public also.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda, which tonight includes approval of the regular minutes of November 1st, received committee and other reports, including the election statistics report, fire department business meeting draft minutes of November 7th, and the officers meeting draft minutes, Prescott Power Plant ash landfill deposit report, the sheriff's activity report of October, Recreation Committee agenda for November 15th and the draft minutes of October 18th. Correspondence not requiring board action includes correspondence from Charter Communications regarding channel lineup changes, accident fund workers' compensation dividend, and bills payable in the amount of $236,864.32. And I need approval unless somebody wants to pull something out. Randy?
Just a comment, the closed session minutes should be in there also. We did have a closed session last meeting.
So moved as amended.
Second.
So that's from November
1.
1st. Okay. Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Then approval of the rest of the agenda.
No.
All right. If there are no changes, I just need approval for the remainder.
I'll move to accept the agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next up is public comment. Anybody wishing to address the board, come forward. Name and address, please.
Mike Springer, Eagles Nest Road. I'd like to talk on 10B, design standards. Thank you.
1B. Anybody else wish to come up and visit with us? No? Okay. Board member comment. Anybody want to share anything?
It's good luck to all the hunters.
Safety to hunters, too. Yes, Randy.
Okay, I'll give you a few updates from the election last week. Everything went very smooth, so that was good. No major problems other than a few voters were in the wrong spot, which happens every election, but for the most part, everything went good. Percentages of the precincts that voted in Precinct 1, which is the big precinct, which has 2,400 voters. 1610 voted out of 2410, so 66.8% voted in Precinct 1. And Precinct 2, which has 1134 voters, 822 voted, so that's 72.49%, so an average of around 69% for both precincts. So that's historically pretty close to what we had in November of 2012. We had about 71%. And in 2008, presidential election, when we only had one precinct, 70% voted. So we're historically on our mark for the presidential elections. The library proposal passed quite well, I believe, with the 70%. 70%, I don't have the number in front of me, but it passed pretty good. Other than that, like I said, the night went pretty well. I was done by 11 o'clock, so I was pretty well. I was home and watching the news at 11. So for a presidential night, that's pretty good. So I want to thank the election workers and the voters that did come out to vote, because without the workers, it went very smooth, and without the voters, we don't have an election. So that's all I have.
I think we had 23 workers, eh?
Yeah.
I counted right. That's quite a bit.
But it went very smooth, though.
Good. Good job to your staff. Anybody else have anything to share?
We didn't have any rioting in the streets or anything like that following the...
I have a couple things. If everybody's got their calendars, especially with our new folks who will join us shortly. I did talk to Susan Radwan today about our strategic planning session next month, or January. And she is saying January 11th and 12th works for her. So, what I didn't get a chance to do was check the community room for that. I know the following weekend was bad. She needs 2 days, either the 11th and 12th or the 12th and the 13th. So that's a Wednesday, Thursday, or a Thursday, Friday. And her recommendation is the board has a full day first, so that would be like maybe the 11th, and then all the committees and staff would be a half day the second day. So that could be Thursday the 12th, and she thought maybe like 10 to 2 or 9 to 1 or something like that. We can kind of finalize that, but I wanted to know how your calendars looked first of all. Anybody see any problems with that?
Check the room.
Okay.
I could check the room from here, Randy.
Those are her best days, so I know the 17th, we're doing the Business Association here. We had her booked, I think, for like 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah. 11th and 12th are Wednesday and Thursday. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or Thursday, Friday.
Unfortunately, on my other computer, I can't get the community room on this, so I think you're at the go again, Randy. I'll leave that.
Okay. Second thing I wanted to mention is the committee appointments. We still have a few people who have submitted names, I believe. We have a few more applications, so that's good. So anybody who's interested in helping out with any of our 36 members who are switching out, some of them will, some of them won't. Recreation or roads or planning or just about anything you could think of to volunteer for the township, let us know. The last couple weeks, we talked to Public Works about their budget. We had insurance discussions with employees. We had the election, of course. We also had an interview from a reporter from Washington. Bloomberg News came and spent about 3 hours in the township. That was kind of interesting. asking questions. Her main report was going to be on the tax tribunal. So needless to say, she spent about an hour with Randy going through history on that. Talked to the fire chief and to me, and got a chance to see a little bit of the township. So hopefully she's going to have an article. I think it's just under Bloomberg News. They're a parent company or a subsidiary of Business Week, I believe she said. And that should happen before the end of the year. We are going to talk about ORV. You can see you've got another memo from Jason McCarthy about the ORV ordinance and what we're going to do with that. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the police report in tonight's packet. It talked about an ORV elude. So I don't know what the background on that story was, but apparently somebody tried getting away with something on an ORV in the township. The other thing is we might be having our computers hooked up on the fire trucks in the next 2 or 3 weeks with 911. If you remember, we authorized payment for those computers to be able to get almost instantaneous connection for a fire call, GPS directions and everything. So I know the fire department's pretty excited about that. Another thing that the department does that some people might not be aware of is all you have to do is call them up if you're a business owner and ask them to do fire extinguisher training. They came to my business and trained 18 of my employees, something like that. Had a good time, just took a couple hours. That's a real benefit. You know, how many people get to mess with an extinguisher? As simple as that sounds, it could be life-saving. So anybody that might want to avail themselves of some of the benefits of the fire department, give them a call. They've got smoke alarms that they can give you. They'll come in and install them in some cases. They're there to help. Just another township resource. Thanks, Randy. Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. All right, we may not be able to get around that one.
Unless you want to go to a different site, different location. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, is the board, they're not going to use the boardroom. We can use the boardroom, right?
You could use this, but I don't think that works for her, the way she likes to do her programs.
Well, we can always set it up different. There's still room in here.
Or Lost Creek, like we had a meeting before over Lost
If-
Creek.
If all of the, I counted, if all of the committee members and the staff, it's like 93 people, I think. So it's a pretty good-sized crowd, if everyone is able to come. So we have to kind of plan for the biggest crowd.
We had used Lost Creek previously,
Yeah.
the community center at Lost Creek.
She has another commitment that Saturday, the 14th. That's why we were kind of waiting. She has 2 other venues, and I said, well, if we can loop them together, rather than have her make 3 separate trips.
Sure.
So, okay, I'll let her know.
So what are the dates we should keep open?
Well, I would say the 11th, 12th, and 13th of January, if we end up maybe at Lost Creek or somewhere. Because our center's blocked the whole week, Monday right through the following Sunday.
That's been scheduled for quite
For
a
all
while.
day, yeah. So we can't really displace them. So I'll give her a buzz back, and maybe that's what we'll have to do. I guess then, if we can check in the morning and see if the other
Lost Creek?
center's open,
Yep.
just in case. Okay, thanks for that. All right. Now we need to go into a closed session. So we can move, I believe.
Yeah.
That'll work easier for everybody since we don't have, it's not planned the way it was. So everybody can stay here.
I think we ought to explain what we're doing.
Well, to a
We're-
point,
We're going into
Leave
closed
the
session.
clerk will read it.
Yeah.
and just for the audience so that they're not lost while we're gone.
So the motion will be to enter into closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268D to consider the purchase or lease of real property up to the time an option to purchase or lease that the real property is obtained. So basically, we're going to closed session for property purposes.
So you all can stay here. We're gonna go in a conference room and visit,
There's a motion, it has to be seconded.
just so they know what we're doing.
So moved.
Or, roll call.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Marks?
Yes?
Trustee Trescott? Yes. Trustee LaRue?
Yes?
Trustee Pompo?
Yes.
Supervisor Durant?
Yes.
We are in closed session at 7:17 PM.
Off we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, John. Okay, we're back in session, 8:17. We need a roll call to bring us back, don't we?
Nope.
Okay, that's right, we changed that last time. All right, next is 9A, consider Mason's Bluff development, and 1 and 2. I'm looking for a motion for this. The question is to authorize staff to move completion of Mason's Bluff forward. Or if you'd like me to make the motion, I will.
Okay.
I do not authorize staff to move completion of Mason's Bluff forward.
Support?
Discussion? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Although these are together, we'll probably do a separate motion to authorize staff to negotiate agreements necessary for completion of Mason's Bluff development. I do not authorize that. Motion and support? Questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Local roads rehab update. Does that fall to Dave, or is that just on as a placeholder?
It's on. I think Dave did a pretty good wrap-up at the last meeting. If we left it on here in case there were any last-minute items that came up, I'm not aware of any. The project went pretty smoothly. We've had very favorable weather. The only thing that I'm not sure of is the restoration work that was going to be done, how we're doing on that. But
They're not done yet on the restoration on South Vandenboom. Everything else is done. They have one half of the east side of South Vandenboom to finish the restoration on, and then it'll be wrapped up. But other than that, that's it.
Is that like this week then?
Yeah, they're working on it yesterday and today. They're just not done yet. I took
Okay.
a tour of there yesterday.
Any questions for Dave, or we're good? Okay, thanks. That was easy. Consider ORV off-road vehicle ordinance result of Township Board recommendation to Marquette County from the prior board meeting. We did pass this on, and we have a memo that came from Planner McCarthy, dated back in October 13th.
Yeah, one of the questions that the board had, and I did put this information together for you and put it out here. It is from a prior meeting, but that meeting was about 2 or 3 meetings ago, so I didn't know if you would have the materials with you or not, so I printed it off. I think the critical thing here is the issue that the board faces is you have a choice, basically. You can either fall under the state requirements, the state regulation. The state regulation also provides an option for county government and local governments to create their own ordinance. There's been some confusion and some question about what the state's ordinance actually provides for ORVs with regard to roads. As you know, all of the roads in this township are owned by the County Road Commission. They are all county roads. The definition that is contained, and I just printed this off today from the state DNR website, is with regard to public roads, streets, and highways maintained for year-round automobile travel, including the shoulder and the right-of-way, are closed to ORV operations unless designated open to ORV use by local ordinance. So it's not just the shoulders or whatever. The entire right-of-way is closed to ORV use unless this community adopts an ordinance. The County Road Commission has adopted an ordinance that exempts itself from this. We currently fall into that ordinance. This board requested several changes to the county ordinance. The county has rejected that request. So it falls back to you as to what you wish to do with the ORV use in the township. Do you fall into the states, which means all of the roads and the right-of-ways are closed to ORVs, or do you adopt your own ordinance?
Yeah, and I think we talked about this last time. I think for us to, the township board can't create the ordinance, it has to come out of the planning commission. And this should go back to the planning commission with the public hearing to get more feedback, and then the final draft should come to us. I mean, the board has opportunity for input, but ultimately the ordinance, if we choose to do that, should come from the planning commission.
And I think they have to have a public hearing on it. So get input on it, and then we can rule from there. So as long as it's understood that they have to bring it back to them, they have a public hearing, and then we have the public hearing, and it comes back to us after.
Anybody else have any comments? Were you making a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that,
Or
I gotta get the motion out first.
You're a smooth talker.
I'll make a motion that we send the county ordinance, or the state, the county of Marquette ORV ordinance to the planning commission. And, I guess it's up to them then to, adjust it as needed, or give us a recommendation back to
Okay,
what.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say, you're asking for a recommendation.
Yeah,
No, they have to put on a
recommendation.
public hearing, that's what we'd like to see.
that's part of the
Well-
process.
Yeah, it'd be the process.
Part of it, but, okay.
Dave might want to speak to that too.
Yeah, the state regulation, let's see, the state regulation under, what is it? It's section 324.81131 of the Act, Act 451 of 1994 is very specific in terms of the process that has to be followed with regard to public hearing.
That's on here, isn't it?
I just pulled
Go
this
ahead,
off the
Dave.
website.
If a little more direction from the board back to the planning commission would probably be good, because the rec committee was charged, or no, sorry, the road committee was charged with the recommendation back to the board on what to do for an ORV ordinance. And they recommended a couple changes or deviations from the county ORV ordinance, which the board then recommended to the Marquette County Road Commission, which they rejected any changes to their ORV ordinance to accommodate the township. So what the board needs to do is, when you send it back to the planning commission,
Road committee.
are you recommending the planning commission incorporate those changes that the road committee recommended?
That
or
would be
you-
my, what,
Or are you
no.
requesting that
We don't
they,
want them in there.
It's his motion. If he
or are
wants
you
to.
requesting
That's
that
not what
they
he
just
said, though.
adopt the road committee or the road commission recommendation? The road commission's still gonna have to make a change, because if you adopt their ORV ordinance, they still have to go in and remove Marquette Township as an exemption.
that's if we have our own ordinance.
Yeah. So weren't you asking to have the planning commission make a recommendation on an ordinance?
Correct.
For us?
Yeah,
Okay.
then they can
That's
take
the way I
input from
understood it.
anywhere.
Randy?
If I remember how this all occurred, the recommendation that came to the board has not gone through the planning commission as yet. It came directly from the road committee. So I think what you would be doing is you would be taking the road committee's recommendation, forwarding that to the planning commission for review in regard to the development of an ordinance for the township board to consider. So I would think that you would have that recommendation from the road committee go to the planning commission, which is their parent entity, for the planning commission to review, research, hold a public hearing, make a recommendation to the township board.
Thinking we did send it to planning, apparently. how did the road committee get it? They have to work under the auspices of planning anyway, or by our direction.
Well, the issue came to the board from citizens. The board then, if I remember right, referred that to the road committee.
Okay,
And then return that came back with some adjustments, and then it went to the county,
And they
and then it
said
came
no.
back, the county rejected it, now we're back to this.
okay, so let's clarify your motion then.
Well, I mean, the planning commission can get input from any source they desire, so I guess.
And
So
it's
if-
to create an ordinance.
Yeah,
in
to
order-
create an ordinance
Okay.
for recommendation, yeah.
That's the way I understood it too. And I think, John, you seconded. Is that okay with you?
It is.
that the way you understood it?
But one more comment. This whole thing started because if you adopt the state, we can't have people with ORVs get from their home to where they can drive around because they'd be doing something illegal if they did that. So that's where it all started. I think the motion is in order and it's appropriate, and I think the planning commission can talk to the people on the road commission. I'm sure they know each other and they can get along real well. And then they can come back here with a final document for us proposed that we adopt.
Dan?
I also think that you have to really look into this seriously, though, because you could create the ordinance and include roads or actually close roads for ORV driving. But I think you have to realize when you open it up to county roads, again, you're opening it up to every road in the township. Therefore, you're opening it up to small residential roads, which means that if you are requesting that the ORVs can drive on those roads, and I guarantee you I've seen ORVs drive down my road faster than I can drive with my car. And if you say you can't drive on a road, you got to drive on the shoulder, or then you're talking about driving in people's yards with ORVs. So I think those are all things that you have to decide. I mean, are you going to pick certain roads that can be driven on that don't affect people's property or safety issues on roads, or those are all things that has to be looked at in this instance. And that's why I think I just think it's a big issue that really needs to be very well looked at.
Thanks. Pete?
Some of the comments referring to that is, people would say that I don't want everyone to come down Woodridge. I'd much rather have one come down there and maybe one go down another one, so you're not interfering with, one road being a runaway. So Manistee has done it that way. They open it up and they did it both ways, and they come back to just leave it the way it is, and they can go down any road, and they've been pretty happy about it. The only thing you have to do is we have to patrol it, and that's the same thing with cars speeding and stuff like that. And that was some of the comments from the public, that they'd like to see go any road, not just pick on my road going down there,
Randy, do you have anything specific you just want to leave it open?
Well, I think it should be vetted, because there is a lot of questions that need to be answered. As an ordinance, that's the law of the township as an ordinance, so it has to be well thought out when it's done, so we can enforce it, because an ordinance without enforcement is, you might as well not have one, so.
Okay, then planning will hear, or at least Jason will, to set the stage, basically, or set the road, I guess.
Well, they can set the stage, they
On
can,
this discussion, I mean.
yeah,
Yes.
and they can have public hearing, and they can get the input from the residents, and then move forward with a thoughtful ordinance, in my opinion.
Randy?
You say one of the elements that, because of the configuration, as Trustee Pompo said, because of the configuration of our roads with no shoulders, no sidewalks, no breaks, anywhere in the pavement, whatever your ordinance with regard to ORVs is, I would suggest that you include a requirement that they be properly lit for use on paved roadways. Taillights, headlights, so they can be seen.
Anything else? Okay, so the motion is to pass the responsibility of creating an ordinance for ORV travel in the township to the Planning Commission with all the appurtenances that apply to that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. New business, consider budget amendment 2016-15.
I'll present to the board Budget Amendment 2016-15. I'll make a motion to approve that. The highlight of the budget amendment is authorization is requested for an additional $19,000 in expenditures in the general fund for general services administrations, phone, postage, tax tribunal, legal will be higher than initially budgeted. Street lighting was budgeted for $18.58 per month, has been $20.85 per month, and increased to $217.16 in October with the utility increase, and the offset will come from the fund balance. It's a small budget amendment.
I'll second it.
Motion support, roll call?
Secretary is yes. Trustee LaRue?
Yes.
Trustee Trescott?
Yes.
Trustee Pompo?
Yes.
Trustee Marks?
Yes,
And Supervisor Durant.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Ten B is consider Planning Commission recommendation design standards zoning text amendment. We have already talked about design standards a few times. I went back, Randy and I spent quite a bit of time trying to find exactly what happened way back when. And in October of 2015, the motion was to direct the Planning Commission to create design standards for the new business construction in the township. So I gave that to Planner McCarthy and said that was the directive, way back when. Somehow it morphed after that. And while I don't have any problems with talking trails and ADA and paths and all that stuff, the direction was design standards because we had an issue in front of us we wanted to address. The Planning Commission has come back and said what their recommendation is. We lost Mike. He wanted to speak to this. So the recommendation is before you, whether to accept their recommendation. Randy?
Make a motion, we approve the design standards text amendment as presented.
support.
Motion and support. Any comments or questions? Randy?
Well, again, the Mining Journal did a pretty good article on it today. Ryan wrote that. The last Planning Commission meeting, we did talk about design standards, and ultimately what we did was separate the trails end of it out. And we decided at the Planning Commission level to create a subcommittee to look at that. Because we felt it wasn't the original intent of the township board to look at trails and at that time. So in the development community at the time also did not have a problem with the original design standards. Excuse me. So that's what that's in short what happened at the last Planning Commission meeting. So the Planning Commission is going to establish a committee to work on the development of pedestrian ways and walkways. That'll be at a later time.
Good, thanks. Pete?
I just feel like it's a hot potato and, you just want to get rid of it, so I won't be voting in positive. I'll vote against it for tonight for that reason. Because I think I will not support it.
Go ahead, John.
I just think that the planning commission deleted the things that the board we're uncomfortable with, and it now is a ordinance that meets our early requirement. And I think it's well done, and I incidentally thought it was a exceptional article in the paper today.
Anything else? Okay, do we have support?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Consider Trowbridge Phase 4 Sanitary Sewer System Extension Contract Change Order Number 1. That's going to fall to Kirk.
In your packet is a change order recommended by Kurt Simandl, North Country Engineering, for the Trowbridge Phase 4 Sanitary Sewer Extension Projects. And the changes are unit prices and quantities proposed by the contractor, Ovistar, for a main extension which was outside the original project area. And the total net contract increase is $18,558. And I concur with the recommendation and request approval. This particular change order, earlier this year when you approved this project, I was making some comments about this being the final sanitary sewer extension in Trowbridge Park. It's been been going on since the early 90s. That meeting was televised. Within a week after, somebody watching the meeting called me up and said, "We live in Trowbridge Park. We have a failing septic system. We need sewer." So that's why we have this is absolutely the final extension in Trowbridge Park.
Move to concur with the Superintendent of Public Works recommendation.
I'll second it.
Motion and support. Any questions for Kirk?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Consider Trowbridge Park Low Pressure Force Main Project Phase 4 Contractors Pay Request Number 1.
Okay, this is for the same project. In July, Township Board awarded the construction contract for the Trowbridge Park Phase 4 Low Pressure Force Main Extension Project to Operstar Incorporated for the total cost of $120,675. The project is now substantially complete, and attached is pay request number 1 from Operstar, recommended for payment by North Country Engineering in the amount of $120,485.20, and I concur with the request and recommend payment.
Motion to concur with the Superintendent of Public Works. Pay the bill.
Second.
Motion and support. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Pay that bill. Consider South Vandenboom Low Pressure Force Main, probably Sanitary Project Phase 2 Contractors Pay Request Number 3.
Okay, this project was awarded the contract to Associated Constructors for the total cost of $116,032 for the sewer portion, which is being constructed in conjunction with the Township Road Project. Attached is pay request number 2 from Associated Constructors, recommended for payment by Kurt Simandl of North Country Engineering in the amount of $23,774 for the sewer, and I concur with their request and recommend payment totaling $23,774. And I did not get the pay request for the water portion, so hopefully that'll be on your next meeting.
I move to accept the recommendation.
Second.
So is this 2 or 3 then?
Request number 3.
This is,
Is it because you didn't get the
Oh.
water? Let's see.
That's request number 3 on project phase 2.
yeah, it should have been,
Okay, so it is 2.
the subject is correct, the sentence is wrong. It is number 3,
Oh, it is number 3?
yes.
Okay. So there's still just the retainage left then?
basically, yeah.
Okay.
So there, we did do a partial punch list last week, mainly restoration and some other minor items, but there's a pressure reducing valve associated with, I'm talking about the water main now, that has not been started up, or we're gonna do a final inspection on that tomorrow. So there'll be an additional.
One more. So that's besides the
Punch list.
retainage then, too, you're saying?
Yes,
Because
and
of the
I'm
punch
still
list.
talking about now I'm talking about the water, which has not, they didn't make a pay request yet. So that'll be at your next meeting.
Okay.
I'm not sure why, it just didn't work out. I didn't get it, so I didn't present it.
Okay. We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Kirk.
You're welcome.
Yes.
There's one thing inadvertently left off out of the packet tonight. I'm not sure what happened, but on the Trowbridge sanitary project, there was that change order for the contractor. There's also, the engineer has also requested an amendment to his contract because this extra work on the part of the contractor also required extra work on the part of the engineer. Most of it's minor stuff, but one thing that's additional is due to the situation, we were basically just extending an existing main across a street. And instead of going up the second street, which is Ontario, we basically just extended onto their property since there's going to be no other connections, so it actually reduced our cost. But we need to, it's a public main that's on private property, so the engineer and the attorney have to develop an easement for that portion. So I'll, again, next meeting, present that contract amendment for the
Okay.
engineer.
That was the sanitary sewer side in Trowbridge? Okay. Okay, we're down to the manager's report.
Pretty straightforward. You do have a printed report in front of you talking about the township budget process, and we do have a budget work session later this evening that may result in a consensus budget. If that does occur, I am prepared to put the notice of public hearing in the paper for the public hearing to occur on December 6th at your regular board meeting. Schwemmwood Park, I don't know if board members have seen the Clerk Rattari has a picture up on the screen. Tuesday of last week, someone deposited 40 tires. We originally thought it was 37. By the time they dug all of them out of the water, it was 40. At Schwemmwood Park, we do have several residents have identified potential participants that the Sheriff's Department is following up on. Would certainly ask any residents that might have seen truck, trailer, whatever, carrying tires in the area of County Road 492, that they could potentially give us a call with a description. We would certainly appreciate that. This is the kind of activity that should fly in the face of all township residents. This is a publicly funded park. It's a public park. Township dollars went into developing it. It's a trailhead for the Honor Our Heritage Trail, and for someone to go in there and drop those 40 tires is despicable, and we hope we find them.
Definitely. Unfortunately, that's taxpayer money now that has to pay to have that fixed or disposed of, paid for.
They were picked up. We had North Country Disposal come and pick them up and haul them away and dispose of them. We have not received the bill for that yet, but it will not be cheap.
Somebody out there knows more than they're telling. Any questions for the manager? Pete?
I'd like to have some kind of a description of we have a problem. I had a call from a guy over on Brookton in Commerce about a junkyard versus a storage yard. I'd like to have a description or turn it over to the Planning Commission to research that and see if it was done properly, planned out. Did they get the proper permits and setbacks and stuff like that, just to justify what happened there. Warming shed, do we look at the cameras?
Mhm.
We had somebody plug the toilet up the other day or something like that?
There are no cameras in the toilet.
No, in their room though.
Well, but you wouldn't be able to tell
Yeah.
who
All right,
who
the
it
question
was.
would be, do we watch the camera at all? Do we
Yes.
ever check it?
Mhm.
Okay. And also, I guess you said that in December water bill, we'll have something put in there about snow on the walkways, snow plowing towards the intersections
Mhm.
and stuff like that, so just.
Yeah, what's being referred to there is last year, the last 2 years, in fact, we run into problems with individual property owners hiring out their snow removal or doing it themselves and depositing the snow piles in the pathways. Once that occurs and that freezes, we can't clear the pathways. So there will be notice in the December billing, utility billing at the beginning of December, advising residents to have their snow removal people and themselves not deposit that snow in the public walkway. If they do and we have to remove it, we'll likely be charging them for that.
And because we are going to be plowing the walkways, so.
Absolutely, we will be. Not only those walkways, but the Safe Routes to School walkways, the new ones as well.
And the reason about the intersection and the snows, when you start pushing the snow towards the intersection, a lot of lower cars and that, you come up the intersection, you can't see. A good example of Moran and Erickson down there. He's pushing the snow right towards the intersection, and you can't see until you're out into the intersection. So any intersection, we should try to stop the people from pushing it towards that way, so.
Mhm.
That's it.
Okay. Then we can go into forum discussion about the 2017 budget. During our work sessions, because they're work sessions, we can't really make motions and, unless it's a special meeting or something. So, most of our discussion was pretty general. I don't know if anybody has any certain questions they want to put in the department. You wanna just kinda skim, whatever your pleasure.
I just think we've all been presented the budget, and if we got comments or
I think it looks pretty
issues,
good.
let's go forward, because we've already talked about most of the budget, and I think we're either ready to go forward or not go forward, so.
So this is our opportunity to go ahead and approve it. It's a living document, as our treasurer always says, so that doesn't preclude us from changing it. We just did a budget amendment tonight. Yes, Dan?
Well, unfortunately, we're in a forum session, so we can't really approve it. I think we're just looking for a consensus here. And basically, I can't agree to it. That's just my feelings. I think we discussed at the last forum session that under the general fund, we were looking for a added part for the stormwater fund that the township owes, the stormwater fund. We were looking for something of that in the budget.
Some kind of a payment, you mean?
Well, just the fact of how much we owe them. It is a debt, and I think hasn't been put in a budget since we've done it, so I still think it needs to be a
Well, line item.
line item as a debt. And also, I would think that we should start working on some kind of payment to pay it back. And the second part, I don't, again, I haven't found the addition of an extra person in the fire department. I haven't been convinced that the necessity for that, as well as how that person's going to be paid, where the money's coming to pay for that person. Although I should say that I was pretty surprised by reading the officers' minutes of the fire department, where Chief DeMars made the comment, any new large expenditures, example, vehicles, building expansion, et cetera, will have to be funded via a millage request. Mayor Gerard is talking about putting it on the ballot this summer. That's first I've heard of it. I think if that was something he was thinking of doing, that should have been brought up under the board budget session. And also, if you read the minutes from the Recreation Committee, I see that the Recreation Committee is also suggesting that we have a millage for monies to be used as match for grants. I think those two millage ideas, I think, are something that needs to be discussed, not just thrown out there. It should have been handled during the budget session if this is what was being planned. So from that and also from the standpoint also that I think we requested the fire chief to come up with a new narrative, and I haven't seen that yet either. So if you're looking for my consensus, I would have to say no at this point in time.
Thanks, Dan. I think Randy has mentioned a couple times suggesting that possibly we did some kind of a millage. And I imagine he would have recommended it to the fire department when he did their budget. I don't mean to speak for you, Randy, but I remember the discussion.
Yeah, I can address those items. Following our last discussion, Lois is building into the budget the stormwater, so that will be in your 18 budget as a budgeted item with the payment repayment structure.
17 or 18, excuse me.
18 budget.
18?
Yeah.
Why not 17?
Well, she's developing it now. If you want to hold the budget for that, it can be done. I mean, we're not making a payment to the stormwater this year, so it's irrelevant.
Yeah, we hadn't talked about it. Okay, go ahead.
With regard to the millage, yes, I've raised it several times during these budget discussions about the need for a potential for a millage for recreation and for fire. So I'm surprised that it's a surprise.
Well, it's a surprise only from the fact that it says right here that you're planning on doing it this summer, and I don't think anybody's.
Well, you're talking about minutes that I have no part of.
Well,
I don't know what those minutes say.
Well, I can only read what the minute says, where actually it says Mayor Gerard is talking about putting it on a ballot for the summer, so that's.
And we did talk about that. We talked about putting it on this ballot this last year. We talked about putting it on next year. We've talked about putting it on 2 years from now. So that's an accurate statement.
And I would think they should understand that it's not up to Randy to put it on the budget, on the millage anyway.
Well, it was discussed in
The way it was
the
worded.
concept about what we did for the roads. You know, what we did with the roads, to fix the roads up, we went out for millage, and the only other way ever going to get into anything else as far as recreation or fire department, we thought about millages, so. I know the conversation came up, but I don't, you know.
I'm thinking we did get the second narrative. I wonder if maybe maybe I just got it
What's that?
from the fire department. That was, I think, Dan's third thing. He said he didn't get the,
I didn't get it, no. Unless it
No,
was in-
I think he had submitted it to you for review.
maybe. I don't know if I was supposed to give approval or not. I just remember the discussion. Let me find that for you. It may be a moot point now, but,
Yes, I would say it is a moot point now.
yeah. What, John? You're next.
I was interested, we go through the consent agenda and we just read it. And a part of it really can get very complicated and informative. Item 6 on our tonight's consent agenda that we just simply read the minutes of the Recreation Committee meeting. Some of it, when you get to item F on there, it talked about grant writing and whatnot would be addressed when a report is presented to the township board about the thought of putting under 41 an underpass. To me, before any permission to go ahead and do grant writing for an underpass, and more importantly, when that committee is talking about a millage to accommodate it. Seems to me like an awfully big step forward being taken by the Recreation Committee before getting an okay from the Township Board about their thinking about doing such a thing. An underpass under 41 is an enormous undertaking. An underpass under 41, if anyone looks at it, there's only been 3 of them in Michigan. One in our neighbor to the south, but then 2 in, I think, in Traverse City. Very short passages undertaken, but at an enormous cost. Before anybody starts talking about that in a committee, I'd like them to bring that thought to the Township Board and have the Township Board pass on just how they feel about something like that before any staff time gets spent on undertaking any grant writing of that kind, or writing of a proposed millage to be put on the ballot to accommodate the shared money that the township would have to pay along with any grant that would be granted.
So
That's a big step. And I think that it's about time that some of the committees realize that they're to be advising the Township Board on issues of that magnitude, not just walking ahead.
Okay, so budget-wise, that pertains how?
I think that, all right, you can forget about it for the
Okay.
budget, but I just think it has to be brought up, and
Okay,
I think it should be.
all right. I wasn't sure if you were talking about funds. I didn't know
There's
if
not an
that was-
issue in the budget, and I'm ready to go along with the budget because I don't think there's any other course for us. But I want you to know that I wasn't through this whole evening without thinking about somebody in a committee planning about digging a tunnel under 41. Thank you for their
Thanks,
time.
John. Anything else?
No, as far as the underneath the highway, John, that was part of MDOT. MDOT has discussed it, the planning commission has talked about it, the road. It's a thing that if we can move forward into getting people from one side of the highway safely to the other side, and that was something we'd like to see, but until you have continued from one side to the other and where they're gonna go after they get over there, and is it worth getting them over there? But that's, MDOT been in a lot of their discussions. US 41 corridor has been discussed, it's in the notes there, in the minutes. And so it's not just a thing, it's something that it'd be a nice goal to get done, if you can do it, step 1, 2, and 3, something like that. So it's gonna take further discussion on it. It's not, hey, we're gonna do this, so. And it'd be good to have you part of it, the discussion and that, so. I'm in favor of the extra man in the fire department. We're using the Janelle right now. Sometimes during the day, it's hard to find people to come out to their calls. And we're taking Ron and Rob and a couple other, in case we have a big disaster, we'd find it hard because everyone else is working in that. And I think it's important that we do that. So that way Janelle can stay in, do her job inside the office. But the rest of it, like John says, I don't see any problem with it. I think the department heads did a good job justifying what they got in there, so I have no problem. Lynn, I'm satisfied with it.
The only thing we didn't get, oh, I'm sorry.
I just, no, I guess, well, yeah, all right. I had a question for Kirk, but it slipped my mind. I talked to him the other day about it, but I can't think of what I was gonna ask him, but.
Probably the same one I was gonna ask, and that's why I was glad he was still here. We found out that some of the extensions that you wanna do, we were talking about 73-cent increase or decrease for
Oh, that's it.
for rates, and then now you've had 2 more projects, or yeah, basically 2 more projects that might impact those rates. Do we have a number yet as to what is gonna happen with that? Because any kind of consensus is gonna have to include that. We didn't really decide if we were gonna split the 73 cents, put it in a fund, keep it, raise it.
I do recall a discussion about that, but that, I forget what fund was that?
Sewer.
Sewer, you had 2 more
Right, yeah,
phases
I
or
have-
parts
no,
on,
I have not, I mean, it's,
okay,
it's something that just came up, you know, there's another extension that we may need to make, that, it's kinda hard to get projections, you know, without any kind of,
I didn't know how far
You
you
know.
were in the whole process.
I'm not anywhere at all.
Not anywhere, okay.
I have been looking, actually more closely at the water fund. I'm gonna be looking at both funds, but there were some, good questions raised at the last work session. So I am, doing some revisions. Another thing that I mentioned during the work session was, just prior to the work session, I had just received a draft, user charge system for the water system for that DWF project. It's a requirement of the grant or the loan application. And so that's, and in addition to some of the questions that were asked, that kind of dovetailed into some issues that were raised during that study. The study wasn't raising any issues. It was just that it's different than what I had proposed. For example, one thing was the debt service. You know, we're only charging a debt service, a full debt service fee for one project. So, and we have 3 other actually debts, I believe it's 3, that we're only charging the interest as an expense.
And you were talking about putting them together?
Correct, yes. So that'll be one change there. And then there's also some discussion about, you know, should it be reduced? Should it stay the same, or should it be somewhere in between? So, as a result of the report that I got and questions raised at the work session, I am looking at keeping it the same, you know, and not reducing it. So,
That's what I was
but
wondering.
again, I'm still
How do we
working on
do
that, but that's my goal, is to make the numbers work, which is easier said than done.
So, what's the best way? We probably won't know even by the end of the year, right? But-
No, you'll know it before the next meeting,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
or before the hearing anyway.
okay.
Yeah, what Kirk's referring to is at the last budget work session, question came up, I believe it was Trustee Pompo raised a question about the principal. Where are we tracking the principal on these debt retirements? And following that meeting, I had Kirk get in touch with our bond counsel, Paul Stouter, who is doing a study of that basically. And what he's doing is he's reconfiguring, and you'll see, as Kirk said, we expect to have it prior to your next meeting, you will see a revision of the way his budget is put together showing that principal so you can track it. Right now, all you show is the
Right.
interest.
And there's also a question raised about, we're doing a lot of projects that are not, we don't borrow money for. Okay, so the question was, how's that being paid for? Well, that's being paid for out of basically our checking account, you know, the unrestricted cash. So the debt service charge is a restricted account. So everything else comes out of, so you've got all the budget numbers, but when I build a project, it's not reflected in the budget because it's an asset. So it goes on the books as an asset. So another thing that the Stouter report was looking at was, because basically he has to show the DEQ, how are we going to pay for the project? How are we going to pay the debt? How are we going to pay for the operation and maintenance? How are we going to pay for replacement? And a little bit more specific, not more specific, but he's looking at cash flow. So that gets down to, okay, there are more numbers involved than what's in the budget. But in order to make that work, I've got to put numbers in there. So that's why I'm saying instead of reducing, I'm gonna keep it the same divine rate with maybe even a small increase.
Yeah, and where you'll see that tracked, if you look under the miscellaneous info tab in your budget, right at the front, there's a page 4 basically is the debt payment schedule. So you'll see that reflected there under principal and interest. It's not there right now. As soon as we get that report back,
Oh,
we'll be
it will
amending
be?
that.
Okay.
That's where it will show, so you'll be able to track it.
Yeah, and that's less of an issue in the sewer fund, because there's less debt, number one. And secondly, well, actually, it's still a concern because I have a lot of projects that we're not borrowing money on. In fact, I've had more sewer projects than I have water projects. So
Well, they come
I
in.
think there's gonna be less of an impact to the sewer. So I don't think I'm gonna need to raise the rates. I might need to change the debt service slightly, but nothing major, so.
Okay, then we don't need to do anything with this till the next meeting anyway. Right? Sounds like it. Thanks, Kirk.
Yeah, from my standpoint, the only thing that I need to know at the conclusion of this meeting is whether or not you've achieved a consensus budget so I can get the ad placed for the public hearing on the 6th.
That
So I-
doesn't end up changing before the end of the year.
No, it's just that we have
Document.
a specified time frame when the ad has to run prior to, 7 days prior to the public hearing, which has to be before December 15th. You know, in that ad, you have to list the changes from 15 to 16 to propose 17 in that ad. So it'll just be base numbers, total budget.
Okay. Anything
So
else?
if the numbers move around within the budget, it's not going to impact that ad.
Okay. Public comment is next. Anybody would like to, we lost our audience.
Want me to repeat my comment?
Well, we've got additional comments from board members if you want to.
We could do it again.
We could just put it on rewind. Yes, Dan?
Okay. This being my last board meeting, I'd like to take this opportunity to publicly thank my wife Kathy for standing by me for the past 31 years of service to the Marquette Township, especially the last 6 years as a board member. She's been my sounding board and a voice of reason throughout my terms. Prior to every meeting, before I walk out the door, she always makes it a point to tell me to be kind and respectful. And I think that's great advice, and I would think that I have succeeded in doing that. I would also like to thank the residents of Marquette Township for allowing me to serve as your representative. When I started on this board, it was due to less than perfect circumstances. And at my first meeting, I stated that at that time, that I wanted to bring trust and transparency back to the township government. I've always tried to follow that idea throughout my terms. I think that we have succeeded to some extent in that, but I also feel that sometimes some things just never seem to change. This has been an election year that I don't think anyone has seen the likes of in a long time. The mistrust and name-calling has only succeeded in dividing the nation. People feel that their voice is not heard by federal and state governments. But the beauty of local government is that anybody can stand up in front of this board and ask questions and express opinions. Everybody needs to engage themselves with what is going on by reading the board packets to see what is going to be discussed at the meetings, following the budget to see where your money is being spent, and by attending or at least watching the meetings on YouTube. You have elected us to do what is best for you, and we should be held accountable to you. In closing, I'd like to wish the new board good luck in the next 4 years and to remind you to be kind and respectful. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. You want to say something too?
Yeah.
Good.
I just wanted to say how grateful I am for being here on this board for all these years and and also getting to work beside these amazing people. It's been an absolute pleasure. It has meant tremendous amount to me to be able to be on this board and be able to help make a difference in my community. I grew up in the township, and that's why I got on the board, because I wanted to see the township be the same as it was, as great as it is now. In my being on the board, we accomplished a lot, from the Lions Field to the Township Hall to the roads. I am grateful for this opportunity, and I want to thank you all for letting me be a part of this, and I hope to see you at future meetings.
That was nice. I've already thanked both of you guys sort of through my email too, but it has been a pleasure working with you and knowing you. Yes, Randy?
I would like to, again, thank Trustee Truscott. She's been here for the last 8 years. She's probably the longest person. I'm actually the longest sitting person, but she's the next person in length to me. So I'm going to miss you, Di. So.
I'll be at the election.
All right. She'll be an election worker for me, so that'll be good. And I'd like to thank Trustee Pompo again for his 6 years of service. And, you know, sometimes we disagree, but what was nice about the disagreements, they were always respectful. And we never, should I say, there was no hollering that went on. We were always respectful with our disagreements, and when we left the boardroom, we were friends again. So business is business, and I wish the two trustees leaving the best in their future endeavors. So I hope to see them at the elections, and I'm glad to have them as workers.
I also would like to thank both Trustee Pompo and Diane for the many years of service they have, and also Trustee Pompo for all the years in the fire department. And he opened my eyes a lot of things as far as trying to understand things, and some of his oppositions to different things, and made me stop and rethink. After you go home, rethink, okay, am I thinking the right way? Do I need more information on it? And I thank him for that. And I think what his wife tells him, I think we all have to do the same thing. You know, be respectful, you know, appreciate that they're there. It's, heaven knows, I know my wife says many times, do you have to go? You know, it's a commitment. You know, just like I told Danny a couple weeks ago about the fire department. I never thought much about it until we started talking about it, and then he made some comments about the guys got to get up and go and the amount of times that they serve. It is. At the ring of the bell, they're gone. You know, it's just it's a real commitment. And also their commitments, just come here, you know, every month, twice a month, and do this, plus do your research and stuff like that. And I thank them very much. Thank you.
John?
On behalf of the community, Marquette Township, I say to our two trustees that are departing, we all thank you. We all think you've done well, and we appreciate your service, much like that of anyone who's in any service. So we thank you, and on behalf of the community, all the respect that we could give you goes with you.
Randy?
I'm not an elected official on this board, but I have been on others, and people don't realize how difficult it is to sit in the seats that you folks sit in and that Dan and Diana have sat in for the last 6 to 8 years. It's never easy. You never have everybody happy, in agreement. You both have pursued this with your heart and in the best interest of the community, and I wish you the best going forward.
One more motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Die? Okay, let me get my little gavel here. We are adjourned.